Let's begin with the attack W-engines and more specifically with Deep Sea Visitor, well, Alan's signature. Both Deep Sea Visitor and Sanchen are stat-stick weapons that provide a good amount of crit values and hence also fare fairly well in terms of their account value, with Sanchen being usually the overall better choice however. Unfortunately, both of them are also beaten out by Heartstring Nocturne as well as Myriad Eclipse. And speaking of which already, Heartstring Nocturne is the best stat-stick W-engine in the game, and outside of being Evelyn's best-in-slot choice, it is also usually the second best choice for nearly all other limited attack agents, while also being often the best-in-slot choice for the likes of Soldier 11, Anton or even Billy. Heartstring Nocturne has by far the highest account value out of all W-engines, not named Kaboom the Cannon or Unfettered Game Ball, and if you intend on only ever pulling exactly one W-engine in your life, Heartstring Nocturne is the primary choice for that. Seed's signature is a massive crit rate stat stack and provides death threat for basic attacks and ultimates, with the only condition being to use your basic attack and EX special once every 40 seconds. This makes it the best in slot choice for Seed as well as Sujuan and also even Soldier 11 if paired with Nicole or Trigger with her signature. It is great on others such as Soldier 0 Ambi, Anton, Billy or even Nekomata as well, and not very optimal for Evelyn as it basically means you cannot have any crit rate substat whatsoever, which makes it very hard to build around. But it is still a great pull in terms of account value. Generally, the worse your discs are, the better this weapon becomes. Most units are able to obtain at least one, but usually two stacks of Severed Innocence, which makes it a fantastic 108% crit damage stat stick and is usually a good choice for most attack agents due to that alone as well. It does not provide any crit rate however, which often makes it a worse choice than other weapons which, well, do. It is Soldier Zero's Ambi's best in slot and works extremely well on Evelyn, while being a good but often superseded choice on other attackers. Myriad Eclipse is the best in slot for Hugo and is Alan's second best choice, while providing similar stats to Heartstring Nocturne and hence also ranks very similarly for most attack agents not named Evelyn, Alan, Soldier 11 or Hugo. Which also means it is generally a really good pull for your account, but superseded again by Heartstring Nocturne. While Riot Suppressor does in fact provide a fair 15% crit rate and 48% crit damage, it is not only beaten out by Heartstring Nocturne and Myriad Eclipse as well as partially being superseded by Sanchen and Deep Sea Visitor on some units, it very often is not even the best in choice for Sujuan, which means it is also basically never the best in slot for any agent so far. And as such, for me personally, Sujuan's signature Riot Suppressor is not a weapon I would recommend getting unless you really like glowing hair on your Zuzu. Lastly, Bellicose Blaze is only really good on Orphe, so unless you have Orphe, I would not necessarily recommend it. There is not much really more to say about this weapon. The premium S-rank attack W-engines are generally all pretty good, and a single Heartstring Nocturne can carry your account a long way, simply because there are not many great free-to-play alternatives for most agents. While some units, such as Sujuan and Soldier 11 or also Corrin, can make fantastic use of Brimstone and Steel Cushion respectively, a good portion of premium agents have no real great free-to-play alternative, such as Evelyn, Hugo or Soldier 0 MB, where there is a clear difference of 20% or higher between their signature and the next best free-to-play accessible option, which most of the time are just Brimstone or Steel Cushion. With double attacker comps now having been introduced to the game as well, I would highly recommend to consider getting at least one of the premium attack weapons, with my recommendation being Heartstring Nocturne of course. Albeit, who knows when that banner reruns the next time, I mean we just had it. Next, given Banyuche is one of the upcoming characters, let's talk about the Rupture weapons. But before we do, let me quickly talk about today's sponsor, Tower of Fantasy. You know that MMO gacha game? Except it is not anymore. Version 5.5 releases today, and with it comes the new Warp server. Not only did Hotter Studios remove the gacha and all characters are now available for free, but you can obtain all 49 characters that have been released within the last 3 years within just 1 month. And that makes now the by far best time to start your journey in Tower of Fantasy. No Gacha, a trade system that leaves all the resources in the hands of the players and seasonal development. There will be a rollback every half a year, so you have to stress less about your stats. You can experience all the different maps and gameplay updates from the past 3 years at once. Be it the forest, the snowy mountains, the desert, breathtaking mountain realms, or even the outer space. Engage in battle or take your time for some casual content such as playing mahjong, racing cars, or playing gachapon. Whatever you can imagine is available. Tower of Fantasy's version 5.5 and the Warp server are available today, and now is the best time to start your journey by using my link in the description or pinned comment to download Tower of Fantasy today. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Aside from being an absolutely fantastic weapon for Yizhuan and being essentially useless for literally any other non-Rupture unit, Qingming Birdcage is fairly well usable on both Manato and Yetari as well. However, both Manato and Yetari also have access to the A-rank W-engine Will-O-Wisp, and the difference between Qingming Birdcage and an R5 Will-O-Wisp is simply... well, it is not really there in the first place. In fact, an R5 Will-O-Wisp does on average slightly better than Yizhuan's own signature on Yetari, and for Manato, well, Will-O-Wisp is his signature and hence his best on slot choice. Due to that, simply in terms of account value, Qingming Birdcage is not a great pull. But if you play Yizhuan, you probably want to get it regardless due to the massive damage gain she personally gets from it. Yetari's signature, Kraken's Cradle, is very tailored towards herself and hence not necessarily a great pull either, especially given how it is only about a 12% damage loss between using her own signature and either of Qingming Birdcage or Will-O-Wisp. Generally, all of the premium Rupture weapons so far have been very tailored towards their own agent and are not really that great for your account overall. Especially Yizhuan's signature, however, is still a good pull for herself. Hailstorm Shrine is in a very similar but slightly different spot as Qingming Birdcage. While primarily usable on Miyabi due to the massive Void Hunter level 743 base attack and a 24% crit rate main stat, it can at least be used on other characters. Is it necessarily better than other choices? Well, for Ben and Miyabi it is, yes, but otherwise not really. Practiced Perfection is the single-handedly most broken Anomaly weapon we have gotten so far in terms of account value for physical Anomaly. It is the best in slot choice for Alice, Piper, and arguably Jane as well, and if you play any of these 3 agents, it is 100% worth a pickup. Arguably, while it is pretty similar to Jane's own signature on Jane, due to not having any requirement on its uptime, it is much easier to play and that makes it a superior choice for most players. Well, given the team you are playing in is with Vivian and Yuzua, but that's a whole other video in itself. Anyway. Speaking of Jane, Sharpin Stinger is, as just explained, outclassed by Practice Perfection on all 3 physical Anomaly agents, not only in performance, but also uptime management. In my opinion, not necessarily worth a pull. Both Flaymaker Shaker and Flight of Fancy exist, and while the former is mainly usable for Bernice and maybe Piper, Flight of Fancy is only really the best in slot choice for Vivian. Yes, it does provide an unconditional 40% Anomaly build-up, which makes it well usable on other agents, but, well, Weeping Gemini, a craftable A-rank, exists and often beats out many other options. And with Weeping Gemini at R5 being very similar in performance to both Flaymaker Shaker on Bernice and Flight of Fancy on Vivian, I would not necessarily recommend pulling for either of those. Well, again, unless you really like their unique glowing hair. Yanagi's signature Time Weaver is fantastic for herself, but the electric Anomaly build-up is somewhat wasted on other Anomaly agents. With Yuzua providing a 20% disorder damage bonus and being often the primary choice for Anomaly and disorder teams, and some deadly assault buffs diluting the disorder damage bonus even further, Time Weaver has lost some of its original value and is nowadays mainly a great choice for, again, Yanagi and also Grace. Overall, simply because Weeping Gemini is such a good craftable free-to-play choice for Anomaly agents, I do not consider most Anomaly W-engines a fantastic pull. While Practice Perfection is probably the best Anomaly agent for your account if you play either of Piper, Jane or Alice, Other limited S-rank Anomaly weapons are usually either pretty tailored towards their respective agents or superseded by the craftable Weeping Gemini, and hence the TLDR being get yourself more Weeping Gemini. Oh, and Fusion Compiler exists as well, which is pretty usable on most Anomaly agents as well, especially if you can stack pen ratio. Lighter's signature Blazing Laurel is the best limited stun W-engine available, bar none. It does provide the highest possible days in a Vaco, making it the best choice for Lighter while also being fantastic on Jufufu or Kolidar, as well as Chingy and Trigger, and even more so when used in a team with fire or ice agents. However, Fossilized Core is also a craftable A rank, and if your goal is to simply reach 20 or 30,000 points in Deadly Assault, no other W-engine comes close to the amount of days it provides up until that point. Yes, the damage it provides to the team is much lower in theory, but because you are now stunning faster, you are also front-loading your stun windows and hence the stun damage multiplier from it. Whether or not that results in a higher score, well, that will depend heavily on you, but it is a great free-to-play alternative. Overall, if you have Lighter, Jufufu, Chingy, Trigger or Kolidar and play those on fire or ice teams, Blazing Laurel is honestly an S-tier pull. Otherwise, simply due to the existence of Fossilized Core, I would not necessarily recommend it. Ice J Teapot is a great choice for Chingy, Trigger and also Jufufu, and also usable on Lighter. But again, Fossilized Core exists and in terms of account value it is, well, not that great. Roaring Furnace and Spectral Gaze are mainly great on Jufufu and Trigger respectively, with Roaring Furnace being the best in slot option for DPS Kolidar. But unless you play Kolidar as your main DPS and dedicate your entire account to it, it really is just not that great in terms of overall account value. If you have Trigger, getting her signature is probably the closest to being a requirement that we have in the game, well, outside of Trigger's usage within Rupture teams that is, but for your account overall, I don't necessarily think it's a great pull either. Fossilized Core exists, and if your goal is to reach 20,000 points in Deadly Assault, I would not recommend pulling for any limited stun W-engines. Otherwise, however, Blazing Laurel is great for your account overall if you have either of Lighter, Jufufu, Chingy, Trigger or even Kolidar, with other stun options being either a bit more restrictive or plainly unusable on anybody but their designated agent. Apparently defense is a class in Zenless Zone 0, and with exactly one limited W-engine here, that being Tusks of Fury, it is the best choice you have, not like you have any other. It is in theory the best in slot choice for all defense agents but Ben. So if you play either Caesar, Seth or Panyan-Hu, it is an S-tier pull. But given how, as of right now, both Caesar and Seth are superseded by quite literally any other support or even stunner, and Panyan-Hu being able to also use the Event W-engine, which means he now has good access to some kind of impact, I would overall not necessarily recommend getting Caesar's signature. If you play those agents a lot and really like them, however, it is the best upgrade you got. But in terms of account value, it really is not the best choice. And that leaves us last but not least with the support W-engines. And we can make this very short and easy. Kaboom the Cannon exists, and so does Unfettered Game Ball, and while the first is locked behind gacha RNG and the second requires you to spend $50 on half a year worth of battle passes, both of them can come very close in performance to Elegant Vanity and even Metanuki Morphosis. The largest outlier here is probably Dreamlit Hearth, which frankly is a very good W-engine, but it is also only usable on Lucia. I would never recommend pulling for Elegant Vanity, and while Metanuki Morphosis is still a better pull for Yuzua, it is unusable on everyone else. If you are one of the very unlucky players who did not get any Kaboom the Cannon as of right now, or you simply are a new player, I would much rather recommend spending $50 on the Battle Pass for a guaranteed R5 of the Unfettered Game Ball, rather than spending $150 on the weapon banner for a chance to still lose the 75-25. Oh, and also Weeping Cradle exists, which is also pretty good. So let's summarize. If you intend on pulling any limited S-rank W-engines, Heartstring Nocturne, Practice Perfection and Cordis Germina are the best choices, followed by Myriad and Severed Innocence. Specifically for Yijuan and Mia B respectively, both Qingming Birdcage and Hailstorm Shrine are great, but we are ranking in terms of account value here and not how good these weapons are on their respective agent. We can safely skip defense, and if you want to get any stun W engine, Blazing Laurel is the best choice for your account. Dreamlit Hearth is the best W support engine available, out of the limited that is, but it is again only for Lucia and hence not of great account value. So yeah, there you go. I hope this video has been helpful to you, and if it was, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. Leave me a comment on, I don't know, your favorite food, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching. A special shout out to my Patreon members who make this content possible, and with that, I wish you a great day. Peace!